Welcome to another edition of Smells Like Hope, the podcast dedicated to shining the light on drug and alcohol addiction. I am your host, Rob Wilds. I'm a 20-year professional wrestling veteran, and I'm also an addict. Joined, of course, by my co-host, the lovely and talented Chris Casanova. We intend to show you a better road, a better way, help guide you to hope. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Smells Like Hope. I'm Rob Wilds, and of course, my partner, Chris Casanova, will not be joining us tonight. I know, it's disappointing, but he had some prior commitments he had to take care of. But don't worry, Daddy Rob is here with you. Normally I would have waited until Chris was available, because after all, we're kind of like, we consider ourselves the Opie and Anthony types, where we do everything together as a unit in regards to our wonderful, fabulous podcasts. But tonight, I just felt particularly inspired to record something, and this was not going to be very long. So what I'd like to talk about today is the relapse. A few days ago, I joined a couple of Facebook groups that are about addiction and recovery and advice, and today I was noticing there was a tremendous amount of posts from people very upset because they have relapsed. And relapse is an interesting thing. First of all, what I would like to say to whoever from that group, because I'm not going to name any names, we're going to keep anonymity about everything, but to those of you who posted in these groups, who is listening to this right now, I want you to know that every cloud has a silver lining. So it's horrible for you, and it's horrible in general that you did have a relapse and what it's doing to you and how you are punishing yourself so much more than anybody else could. But the silver lining is, with you sharing your story, with you telling us that you have relapsed, and some of you are being very detailed about how it happened, and that helps so many other people. Do you understand? We're all in this together. It takes a village. It really does. But by you sharing the trips and the stumbles along your path, you have, given a lot of people heads up about some potholes in the road. But also, it gives others the opportunity to try to lend you their perspective, because as every addict and alcoholic who has had some clean time under their belts, they will tell you that we are still weak. We are in the same position as you. But when we can give advice, when we can help somebody to overcome what has just happened to them, it adds strength to ourselves at the same time. It's everybody helping everybody, because it really does take a village. And I said this once before, I hate to quote the Batman movies, but it does bring up the question, why do we fall? We fall so we can learn to get back up. And let me tell you guys, it gets easier. I mean, it truly does. If it didn't get easier, there's no way in hell that I would still be clean. It's a difficult thing, but it does get easier. And, to those of you who have relapsed, it's really not, when you are an addict or an alcoholic, it is a disease of relapse. So it's not so much if you relapsed, it's how do you handle it once you do? And I've seen people on these groups tonight. I've seen people who have fallen off from alcohol, from pills, from heroin, from cocaine. You see it all, and it's an equal destroyer. It's just which one do you prefer to let ruin your life? you know, people ask me all the time, "Hey man, do you miss doing cocaine?" And I say no, hell no, fuck no. But if I'm being honest, there are plenty of times when I have felt just the pressure and the stresses of real life every day, just life being on life's terms. It just pounded on me where, a couple years ago, 2 years, 3 months ago, I would have gone out and got myself a bag because that's how I dealt with stress. Now I choose to deal with stress in completely different ways. And to those of you out there who are listening who are new to recovery, you are not in this alone. And those two Facebook groups are perfect representations of this. You are not in this fight alone. Find a sponsor. But don't just grab any sponsor. That is a mistake that a lot of new people make. They'll grab some sponsor who's around their age, somebody they feel like they can relate to, but don't look at it like that. Look at a person who has qualities that you want. It's okay for you to be selfish and think about you first when you're picking your sponsor. I was listening to a radio show, and one of the hosts was an addict in recovery. And he mentioned that, Robin Williams had 20 years sober, and even he fell off. And he had everything that this radio personality wanted. He had the fame and the money and the accolades and all the great things that went along with being a very famous and successful actor. But even he fell off. So you have to understand, guys, sometimes you just have that moment of overbearing weakness and you swallow those pills and you open that bottle. Sometimes you shoot that shit or you sniff that shit, and it happens. It doesn't make you a bad person. If you want to feel like you let yourself down a bit, well, that's okay to feel that way. But don't beat yourself down with it, because you know what's going to happen next? You're going to use more to escape that pain. Like I say, recovery is a hell of a thing, and it is not easy. It is tricky. The 12 steps are the 12 steps, but then what do you do when those 12 steps are done? You got to keep hanging on. You got to get yourself to meetings. You got to get yourself a weed. You've got to get yourself a circle of supportive people who it is safe to turn to them. If something happens and you get off, you fall off and you get on a roll, let's say that I fall off and I get myself a big gigantic bag of Coke and man, I hit the ground running. And let's say that I'm gone for 2 weeks. I feel like I would know after those 2 weeks, at some point, I would have a moment of clarity that I would take myself back to an inpatient facility. But beating myself up about it, that's not going to do anything except make me want to use more. And you are better than that. Why do we fall down? Every time you fall down, maybe you should riddle that question to yourself. Why do we fall down? You are better than what you let yourself be. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? If you keep telling yourself you're a piece of garbage, eventually you're going to be a piece of garbage when you're not. Don't convince yourself down. Talk yourself up. So I can't say that I really had a, quote, relapse. I know that when I was sent by the courts to an inpatient facility, I didn't want to be there. But I was still, 3 months in jail clean, got transferred to this facility for another month, got all that sobriety and NA and AA and Big Book, and you get that all pounded into your head. And when I got out, I wasn't taking it seriously, so of course I went out and did what I always did. And I remember I did feel some guilt over that, but I didn't punish myself. So I don't think that you can really consider that a relapse when I wasn't taking it seriously in the first place. If I fell off now, then yeah, it would be a relapse because I'm over 2 years. I mean, I went to an NA meeting the other day, and I got my multi-year tag. And I thought it wasn't going to feel like any big deal, but man, I was wrong. I felt like I was just given the championship belt. It was fantastic. Everybody shows their support and their love, and they all clap, and they all hug you and make you feel very, very important. And that goes right back to it takes a village. It's heartbreaking when you see another person afflicted by this disease in such a state of such suffering. It's horrible. And you want to help them, but I couldn't type all of this every time I saw somebody doing it. They'd just be like, hey, you're cut and pasting it, and they'd kick my ass out of the group. But man, it does get easier. I promise you it's going to get easier. I know it's hard. I know it's fucking exhausting. And it physically hurts, and I understand all of that. But meetings are there for a reason, These people that you meet in meetings are there for a reason. There are doctors who will help you along these roads. You don't have to do this alone. I spoke to a lady tonight who I'm going to have appear on a future Smells Like Hope, and she was telling me about her battle with alcohol. And she was rolling on booze for like a long time. Suffered a lot of loss, had a lot of consequence. And she quit cold turkey. Now, if you're an alcoholic, please don't quit cold turkey. Don't do that. That's just, there's a really high likelihood that just trying to quit booze cold turkey can kill you. And that's just not a chance worth taking. It's not. So, no, if you are an alcoholic and you don't necessarily want to go to rehab, at least go to a doctor and listen to what they have to say. And hopefully they will not only convince you, but help you to get into an appropriate treatment center. Your job isn't going to fire you for going to treatment. Your family isn't going to turn their backs. Your friends aren't going to disown you. Everybody is going to be, very supportive, be very impressed that you had the stones to go do it. And my 7th grade science teacher, he blew my mind one day. He said, I want to pose a question. What is the difference between courage and bravery? And he said, courage is when you go to do something very dangerous and you're scared. And bravery is when, you're just not smart enough to be scared. You just run into it. But courage is you know enough to be scared, but you do it anyway. That's courage. And then he said, what is a hero? He said, a hero is an average person, an ordinary person, who, whether by their own devices or something beyond their control, has been thrust into extraordinary situations. And when I walk into these rehab centers to talk to these guys sometimes, I look around the room and I see a lot of people who are scared, but they're still there. I see a room full of courageous heroes because they take on these extraordinary situations and they just go for it. And that is so much more than admirable. That's just Just remember that. And remember this. You never hear about heroes really doing it alone, do you? The police are in teams. The fire department are in teams. Jesus Christ, the Justice League is a team. The Avengers are a team. Real heroes don't go it alone. Don't be proud. This is not the time for you to have pride. Accept help. Accept help openly. Because people are going to give it to you freely. They don't want something from you for it. All they want from you is to see you succeed. That's what I want for you, is to see you succeed. And why do we fall down? Just remember that when it comes to relapse, you have to get back up. And on these Facebook groups, props to everybody who posted in a public forum. Well, it's a private group, but to everybody. They posted to everybody that they fell off. And that right there takes a lot of courage. So, more power to you guys, and the people on the group who are listening, the people out there in the world who are going to meetings and, putting in the work. And you guys are goddamn heroes, and you don't forget that. And if nobody has told you today, I love you, you deserve good things, you are worth it. Why do we fall down? Remember that. I told you this was going to be a short one. I was so moved today watching all of this and trying to figure out people's stories. And I had them, instant messaging me. And there's some of them that I'm definitely going to be interviewing on here, because we're really here to pass on messages of success and hope. And I think that's what we managed to do with Wrestle Shoot and with Smells Like Hope, and when we interview on other people's podcasts. And we always try to pass on some kind of good feelings, positivity, and hope, because the world is in a serious lack of that right now. So, in conclusion, let me just say again, I love you. You are worth it. You deserve it. And my name is Rob Wilds. Anybody listening, you feel free to send me a private message. Tell me anything you want. I'm not going to bust you out. I'm not going to put you out here on this podcast by name. But maybe you'll come on the podcast, and maybe you will share your inspirational stories. When people go on this group and they post, they've been clean for 60 days. Man, that gives guys who have been clean for 2 years hope. Yes, you can do it. You did 60 days. It gives the people who have 6 days hope. Yes, I can do it too, because you can do it. The tools are there. The people are there. Everybody is out here to help you. So, until next time, guys, thanks so much for listening. Please spread the word about this podcast and take care of each other. If you are in the Texas area, why don't you go ahead and just sit tight for one more second, listen to this little commercial from my good friends over at Ward Realty. And everybody else, we'll talk to you soon. Are you in the market for a new home in Austin, San Antonio, San Marcos, and the surrounding areas? Have you had bad experiences with realtors who work just hard enough to get that commission? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't your realtor supposed to be looking out for your best interest and getting you the best deal possible? Well, friends, listen up. Chris Ward is that realtor, and I speak from personal experience. He's going to fight to get you into your dream home at your budget. He's always going to be 100% with you, and he'll get the answers to those confusing questions that go along with buying a home. It won't cost you a thing to give him a call and get the ball rolling for you. And sellers, he'll work just as hard for you, protecting you from predator buyers, lowballers, and scam artists. Give him a call at 512-618-5110 or check them out online at chriswardrealestate.net. Again, 512-618-5110, chriswardrealestate.net.